everyone. A while back, we spent a lot of time discussing Plato and his perspectives on rhetoric, but I know that not everyone, me included, fully understood all the new concepts introduced by both philosophers. I thought it would be helpful to have someone from Mr. Almoy's class contribute to our discussion today, since both of our classes covered this topic, but most likely approached and interpreted it in different ways. So today, I am going to take us back a couple of weeks to continue our discussion on rhetoric and hopefully gain a better understanding of what is on it with the help of a student from Mr. Alma's class, Janet.
Hi, Mr. Griffin's class.
Hey, Janet. Thanks for taking time to speak with us today.
Yeah, no problem.
So, from my understanding, Mr. Alma's class also discussed Experts from Gorgias by Plato.
Yeah, a while back my class read through a packet on Plato and rhetoric.
Just to remind everyone what the packet was about, it was a discussion between Socrates and Gorgias written in a script-like style that uses the Socratic method, where two individuals ask and answer questions to stimulate critical thinking.
One of the more confusing topics that could be discussed further is the relationship between attending to the body versus attending to the soul, talked about at the end.
Right. What does it even mean to attend to the body or the soul?
As Socrates had written, there are two categories of arts. One is the natural orderly way, and one is for pleasure or gratification. In the former category, legislation and justice is involved with the soul because it embodies morals and what is right or wrong. These things only exist on the inside. On the other hand, the body involves only external factors on an individual, like how gymnastics and medicine keep a person healthy. On the opposite spectrum is flattery, which includes cookery, cosmetics, sophistry, and rhetoric. The relationship between the two is that the arts of flattery have a corresponding disguise of medicine, gymnastics, legislation, and justice. They mimic the good but for one's own pleasure.
Then, given the fact that the soul is able to discern on a higher cognitive level on what is good and bad, we can probably conclude that the soul is able to discern flattery in the form of rhetoric.
Right, the soul is on higher intellectual ground than the body. Hence, the soul can discern between things such as cookery and medicine. However, if you let the body choose between truth and flattery, chaos will occur. In the same way, rhetoric can distort justice. This is because rhetoric disguises the truth in a way that makes one feel satisfied, influencing the soul into believing that it is the truth and causing the soul difficulty in discerning between what is true and false.
Isn't rhetoric the art of using discourse to influence the will? What does that have to do with the body and the soul?
The way I see it, rhetoric is a bait to mimic natural things that are good and beneficial to a human in order to reel people in for personal benefit and isn't for a person's well-being.
But isn't rhetoric mainly used to create social change and improve understanding?
Rhetoric can change a society's mindset on what is quote-unquote good, but in extreme cases, it can lead to no morals in a society where things like prostitution and slavery are rampant. In current days, cosmetics make people neglect true beauty and that gymnastics enhances.
Then you can say that rhetoric, if used improperly, could disguise flattery as the truth.
Right. This is why rhetoric is a key component in sophistry.
So, sophistry is the use of fallacious arguments with the intent of deceiving others, right?
Yeah. The opposite of sophistry is legislation, which are laws that regulate action and enforce punishment.
Basically, you can convince yourself or another that sophistry is true when you really should be relying on legislation, which is the proper form to strive for.
An example of the practice of sophistry and legislation in real life would be drug addicts. They get a high for a short time while convincing themselves that they are happy and free of problems. But in the long run, legislation rules against drug usage because of the fact that drug use depletes health and only provides temporary happiness. Legislation has the best in mind, unlike sophistry.
We can conclude that rhetoric can affect what one thinks is correct and what is truly correct, making it dangerous in that it can convince someone to believe they are correct when in fact they are disillusioned with flattery or false forms of happiness. And sophistry is dangerous in that it disguises fallacies as legislation, skewing false claims as the truth.
I think this covers the main points, and we can conclude this discussion for today.
Thanks for joining us, Janet.
No problem. I hope I was able to contribute my class's approach to this podcast and give everyone a more thorough understanding of Plato. Bye, Mr. Griffin's class.